y'all, I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate, and we're bringing you another episode of our new construction series, How to Build a Home. So today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite parts of the entire process, and that is the blue tape walkthrough. So I know a lot of people love to see the home when it's all said and done and it's finished. My favorite part is literally getting to take that blue painter's tape and walk around to find all the things that we still have yet to fix. Because it's one of your last opportunities to really get a say-so on all the tiny details. Remember, the devil is in the details. So a couple of things you want to remember to do is take that inspection report that should be done, because remember, we got a pre-drywall inspection. We now at the end line should be getting another inspection because the home is relatively finished at this point. All right, once cabinets and stuff start to go in, you're typically kind of in that downward spiral towards your blue tape walkthrough, which is what we're talking about in today's video. So when you have that final inspection report, a lot of those items are going to go ahead and rapidly start getting filled out and finished from your builder. So if you have some questions about some particular items, the blue tape walkthrough or your new homeowner orientation time is really the opportunity to ask those types of questions. So during the blue tape, a big question I constantly get from people is, well, what am I supposed to be blue taping? Like, what are the things? And then some folks maybe feel bad about doing it because it's kind of like pointing out all the errors and mistakes. Guys, this is part of what you pay for. This is the process. And it doesn't matter if it's a spec home, semi-custom, or custom. Getting a blue tape walkthrough with new construction is very typical. But if it is a custom home, I would be as specific as you possibly can. Even with spec homes, I would try to be as forthcoming with taking all the blue tape you can and really marking all the little things. Because at the end of the day, this is one of your last opportunities before you get an 11-month walk, which is further down the line. This is one of your last chances to kind of make those amendments. So one of the big ones is paint. So builders will kind of ebb and flow on like what types of things paint-wise they really want you to blue tape. I would say blue tape anything that you can. So just keep in mind, Laura's giving the advice, blue tape all the things, and let's just get them to try to fix as much as possible. So something like oil smudges. So you have a ton of interior walking through the home. I am a mom of 3. I can tell you there are like fingerprints everywhere, right? During a blue tape, that's your opportunity to tell them that somebody literally took their hand as they were walking down the hallway. Probably need to touch that up. Another one is missing areas. So make sure that you're not just staying at eye level the entire time that you're walking through the home. You do want to crouch down and make sure that the underside of things is also getting caught, because here's what's going to happen. I'll give you a perfect example. You're sitting in your brand new living room and you had only just walked eye level when you're in your blue tape. You sit down on your couch and you look at your built-ins that surround your beautiful fireplace. All of a sudden, you can see underneath that level of cabinet, the shelving, right? And you see that they missed all of the underside and then where that kind of meets the backsplash. So guys, that's gonna bug you until the end of time, I promise you. So make sure that you are really particular and that you're kind of shifting up and down to look at all different angles, because those are the things that you wanna catch early on. Another one is if something needs like an additional coat of paint. So sometimes a vendor might be putting that second coat and like you get a phone call or something else happens and they get pulled from the job site. The double coating of paint is really crucial, especially for those lighter colors, and the darker paints, like for example, tricorn black is really popular still. Those things need multiple coats of paint. Or if you have mismatching paint. So like if it looks like they've kind of done a shading issue, or sometimes like drywall will have to be cut and they'll have to shade it back over, make sure that seam lines and all of that are crisp, in addition to areas where the paint shouldn't be. So I'll give you a perfect story example here. So clients are buying a brand new house that has a beautiful bright red front door. Well, the door, when you paint it, that little inside piece that kind of typically is flush, right, once you've closed it, that should not be painted red, because what's going to happen is when the door is actually closed, you can still see the line of red down the framing of the door. That's going to really stand out on the inside. So unless that bright red is your color scheme on the inside of the home with accents, etc., you probably want it to just be like white or light gray or whatever the interior color is. So just keep that in mind. Pull the paint out of areas it shouldn't be. Another thing is hardware. So walk around and make sure that hardware is everywhere. So we're talking about doorknobs or like cabinet handles and pulls and all of that good stuff. During the height of the COVID market, stuff like that had that matte black finish actually was getting back ordered pretty regularly. So keep in mind, sometimes it's a supply chain issue as to why it's not there. In some cases, like in one blue tape we did, there was an entire bathroom that just didn't get hardware. And it wasn't any particular reason. It was just somebody forgot to do that particular room. Well, that needed to be amended and adjusted. Another thing is making sure that the hardware has been attached correctly. So like if you have a longer pull handle, so not just like the knobs, but the ones that have two different spots that attach to the cabinetry, make sure the bottom one is attached. I've walked through homes before where like it literally swings. It's not supposed to do that. So pull on all of them, make sure they're properly attached and kind of screwed in. Another one is actually opening all the drawers in the cabinets. So you do physically want to open all the drawers, open all the cabinets, make sure everything is on the right hinges. So if you ordered soft close cabinetry, for example, make sure that works. If it doesn't, or if it's off its hinges or whatever, it's important to go ahead and catch that, because typically, especially with custom builds, you have a specific vendor that does all the cabinetry work. It may not be like the on-site subs that you see in and out of the house on a regular basis. That could be an additional appointment that does need to be scheduled separately. And then trim work. So you're gonna see dents, dings, snafus that were just unintended, places where like stuff isn't lining up just correctly, it needs to be caulked. So those are also locations you want to blue tape, because it's stuff you're going to have to look at for the rest of the duration that you own the home. It's okay to point those things out and ask them to amend it. If it's really bad, like I've seen some where it's like a whole gouge comes out of the trim, ask them to replace it. Guys, trim is one of the easiest things to replace and fix, but it also has a pretty big wow factor, so it's always good to have it in the proper condition. Another one is flooring. So make sure that anytime you kind of move from room to room, so there's like a divide, you're making sure that the flooring is meeting where it should. On occasion, there can be gaps. You don't want gaps anywhere. That's not normal. It's not natural. It shouldn't be there, but it does happen where somebody just missed something or the measurement was off and they intended to come back and kind of amend it and it didn't. Point that out to your builder. Another one is counters and tile work. So I've walked in on blue tape walkthroughs before where something happened in the delivery with the countertop and there's now a big chip in the quartz or the granite or whatever the countertop material is. That should not be there. So it's okay to point that out and ask them to fix it in some way. Now, sometimes it's not necessarily fixable. It's kind of like amended in a capacity. So make sure you're comfortable with whatever the proposed fix is. Same thing with tile work. Sometimes stuff gets dropped on the tiles. Sometimes there's grout that ends up going over the tiles where it shouldn't be. So anytime something seems like it's not pristine, it's not exactly how you want it, always ask. It never hurts to kind of point things out and ask questions. Speaking of grout and caulking, you do want to make sure that all of that is done properly. Part of this will be caught in your inspection report, but you want to make sure all your seam lines are done just so, because you don't want water intrusion in any of those locations. And then another one is installation. So a big one is your dishwasher. I don't know why the dishwashers are so difficult to line up, but those guys always seem to kind of be shifted in the wrong way. So a big one is making sure that it's flush with your actual cabinets and the countertop itself, but also pulling the door on the dishwasher and making sure you can actually open and close it properly without it kind of shifting in any way. Those are some big things that I would look for, because that appliance in particular does seem to have the most issues. In addition to beverage fridges, those also can be kind of off on a regular basis. But without further ado, I also do want to mention, don't forget the exterior of your home. I think we get so hyper-focused on like the aesthetic of the interior that we forget to kind of walk the exterior line of the home. You want to look at all of your siding and your paint. You also want to look at the roof. And then don't forget about your landscaping and anything that has to be stained. Those are also items that you can blue tape should you need to. Anything that is a really big item, like stuff that's missing, or it's probably going to be more than just like taking a paintbrush to touch it up, so a simple fix, do point it out to your builder, because oftentimes they do have a running list, especially if they're going to have to get specific subcontractors back to the home. they do need to document that and make sure that they order that prior to closing. The goal is to always have your punch list, the remaining items to be done, as small as possible and to have nothing on the punch list when you get to closing. All right. So hopefully this was a great little snapshot of what to expect during this timeline. And also don't forget to check out our other content, as this is part of a series, so that you can be prepared for every single stage of your new home build. I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate, and we will see you next time.